what I learned is the organizations very rarely prepare new leaders for leadership. And the only skills and capabilities that you have in your toolbox when you take your first leadership position are the ones that you've observed your leaders have. So my son is an amazing student athlete. And one of the things that I used to do is I used to come to his practices. He's a football player, American football. And I would watch the coaches when somebody didn't get a play off correctly, the entire team had to take a lap. And I began to realize that coaches coach how they were coached. Leaders also lead how they were led. And as a result, all of these misfit tools, hammers when you need screwdrivers and so forth, are really what we start out with. And
Mhm.
it does take I took a harrowing journey in my leadership journey to realize that at some point, I am making the same, I'm making people feel how I felt when I was in their position. Now, you might say, well, Eric, how did you arrive at that epiphany? And it does take a little bit of self-awareness, which is a muscle I think that some people have. I am not a naturally empathetic person. I am what a lot of people might call cognitively empathetic, which means I know and I can actually use my brain to figure out how people can feel. I don't actually feel their feelings, so that's an additional challenge for me as a person. But there was a circumstance in which I took leadership of a new team. The team was in shambles. People just kind of all over the place. There was no rigor associated with it. And I resorted to a command and control, methodology in which I openly criticized people. I would dress them down in front of others. I'd ask for feedback. I'd say things like silence is acceptance. If you don't, if you don't speak now, then you don't agree, or you complicitly agree. So I don't want to hear complaints later. All the things that I had heard
Mhm.
coming up as a leader from my leaders. And then I began to realize that the few individuals that had the courage to come forward and be like, Eric, there are some people that have feedback, but they just don't feel comfortable voicing in front of others. You have to be aware of this. You have that silence is acceptance is just a way of bullying people into making sure that you agree that they agree with you or that they don't dare disagree with you. And I said, wow, that is not how I want to show up. That's not how I want to be. That's how I was led, and I have to do something differently. So the few people that were courageous enough to come to me and say, you need to change, and the world is changing. And if you want to retain talent and you want to go far to go together and you want to keep people together, this is how you have to do it.
So go back to that moment where you were in that command and control leadership, and the stakes were probably high. And how did you feel, and what was the thinking that was going around? Because for me and the leaders that I coach, it's important that we're able to be aware of how, of course, like I loved how you said, this is what we learned. We're going to go back there because it's in there somewhere. So tell us so
Mhm.
we can recognize it. What was it like for Eric to be in that situation? What is
Oh,
it?
goodness. Well, so let me be completely honest. My first instinct was, and I get it. I like to be professional. I like to, and so I never have been a yelling boss, right? Like I had a few of those, and I'm like, I'll never do that. But my first immediate instinct or reaction was, this person is, I'll fix them. They have to
Mhm.
toughen up.
Yeah.
They have to actually rise to my expectations, and together we're going to succeed. This is just them really voicing the fact that they don't like it. They'll get used to it. And again, the exact wrong mental track, right? Exact wrong. Like that's just perpetuating the sins of the past, right? And then I said to myself, well, I really need to change here because I don't want to be the type of leader that just hammers people into a shape and then those who it's sink or swim. That is not the type of environment that I want. And so I've always been a big fan of drawing out and hiring people for their talents. And I realized in that moment that maybe I can't get results out of people the exact same way. Maybe people are not AI, right? Maybe they actually have emotions and considerations and want to be recognized. And I need to play to those strengths. And
Mhm.
so, even still, like at my level, there's a lot of organizational tools that people give executive leaders. which is like how to manage 1,000-person organization, how to actually connect with people, how to listen, and all this kind of stuff. It's terrific. But what we really needed to do is aim this at the Eric Charrans of 10, 15 years ago, who was taking on his first leadership position. That's where leadership actually matters a lot. I mean, don't get me wrong, it matters at my end too, but
Hmm.
we have a lack of tools that we give those leaders. And so a lot of them have to go through this period of self-discovery like I did, which was, nope, they're being too soft. I'll fix that to, oh
Hmm.
goodness, maybe they actually do have a point. Let me by accident try to discover the right way to lead.
So I'm wondering, because like how easy that transition was for you, because you know I'm putting myself in your shoes. I mean, I want to get results. I'm on the hook to get results. I value performance. So I want to make this happen. And then how do we switch from that place to another place? How do you do that?
Yeah. So the pressures are enormous, right? And so the fear is, if I change my stripes now, who's to say that I'm going to meet my quarter or my quota or my performance bonus? Like if I change what I do, I'm throwing everything into jeopardy. The advice that I would give looking back is to start small. The
Mm.
one way that I started small was I just use, what is it, 5 words. What I hear you saying is, sorry, 6 words. So just starting there and saying that, hey, instead of just reacting and problem solving, and this is something I learned from my personal life with my wife, like don't jump into problem solving mode. You need to empathize first. This is true at work as well. What I hear you saying is really allows the person on the other end to, that to say that, hey, he understands me. And
Mm.
then once you reach that level of understanding, you can then move forward and deliver any type of feedback. The other one is the compliment sandwich, right? So when you're delivering feedback, say you're doing a great job, here's an opportunity you have to improve, fantastic work. Like just following that, conversational
Uh-huh.
paradigm, those two things helped immensely. And then I was able to broaden into how I ran group meetings. So when I had my managers and their extended directs on a call, I would say, hey, I would love your feedback. I know that some people are not comfortable in delivering feedback in front of a group or to me directly. Please know that I'm just here to listen, and that will be the end of it. And if you don't feel comfortable delivering it in this format, please contact me directly, and whether via email or schedule a meeting with me, I will make time. So again, it's those 2 to 3 things that I did chained together that didn't necessarily shatter my perception of how I would be able to perform, but they were small things that I could focus on.
Mm. I like that you made it very practical.